Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 14th, 2024. Coming up, Wemby scored 50, Giannis scored 59, the Wolves are having some serious problems, and the Cleveland Cavaliers moved to 13-0. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S. Wow, another crazy night. Although after the NBA Cup night, S, I really think we need like a little bit of a cool down night. You know, the games were so intense.
Well, don't worry. Thursday will be a cool down. One single game.
That's right. One game on Thursday. Before we get started, a little bit of news. We got an update from the Spurs on head coach Greg Popovich, the greatest coach of all time. Yep. He suffered a mild stroke. That's how they're describing it. On November 2nd. Apparently he is recovering well, and so that's good to know.
Absolutely.
I read today that there were some reports that he's watching games and that he's asking why they're turning the ball over so much.
Awesome.
So that's good to hear. And on a personal note, I probably wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Greg Popovich. The beautiful basketball Spurs 2014, 2015 kind of inspired me to do a lot of things and kind of aim in the NBA direction. So I don't wind up meeting the people that put me in the chair to sit here if it isn't for that team and Greg Popovich. So my own personal please get well. I would like to see this guy keep coaching and come back soon. But normally we would start this with the Cavs. They just went 13-0. They beat the Sixers. The Sixers, of course, shorthanded. No Joel Embiid, no Paul George because of the back-to-back, because that's just how this season's going to go for the Sixers. But we actually decided we would just wait a day. We're going to have Carter Rodriguez from the Chase Down Pod. He's going to come on with me and Zena tomorrow, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that 13-0 start. Not a lot of teams, that go 13-0 that don't make some noise in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the sixth team in NBA history to get to this point. We've talked ad nauseum of like how good they've been and what they've been able to do. It's just exciting that they've got to this level, and they also doing it with a couple of like injuries, right? Like Mobley had an illness tonight, still played. Allen was dealing with the leg thing, and so like the fact that they can battle and still get to this level, really impressive stuff. Yeah.
Well, let's swing it back to San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama was insane. He had a 50-point game as the Spurs beat the Wizards 139-130. We didn't expect much out of this game.
No,
Spurs, Wizards, but
although
Wemby,
it was the battle of the French, it was the battle of the French. Bilal, Sarr, Wemby. Maybe that's why Wemby just took it personally. He knew the French were watching this game.
He went crazy in this game, and he went crazy again from three. And I just have to I don't know, issue a mea culpa, I guess,
an apology.
No matter what I want him to do, it doesn't matter, because if he's going to go 8 of 16 from three and 18 of 29 from the field.
Were you the anonymous scout that said he's not an offensive threat? Was that you, Dave?
I mean, the guy had an absurd stat line. So 50 points, 29 shots, so 8 of 16 from three, still got 3 blocks. What he's been doing on this run here recently, the last 3 games, especially, I mean, he's just on another level.
It's historic. I mean, there's no other word to put it other than historic. We can rally off like a million different records that Wemby broke off. I'm sure you have.
There's a bunch of firsts, right?
Yeah,
like it's
first for whatever, right?
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah, and so I think the one difference that you saw tonight with him, and admittedly, he played the Washington Wizards, right, who are still trying to figure things out, but he was getting his shots in a really impressive way. It was in the flow of the offense. It wasn't him chasing down these 3-point shots. It was him trying to look for opportunities to score, and it just came via a 3-point shot. And so, like,
what was a lot of those trail threes that Zena mentioned on the show the other day? I mean, the shot diet was great. The thing is, he's taking open looks. It's just that my sensibilities.
He wasn't making them earlier.
Exactly. Now he is. I mean, it's absurd. Here are his last 3 games. 108 points, 23s made, 36 rebounds. So that's 36, 6.7 threes made per game, and 12 rebounds per game. In NBA history, Luka Doncic is the only other player that's ever done that in a 3-game span. And Wembanyama is also averaging 4.3 blocks. That's from Jordan Hauenstein, who is with Spurs PR. The Spurs PR guys were working overtime on this Wemby game tonight. And I mean, it was amazing.
You know what? It just, and honestly, I do think there is something to the whole French aspect of this because he took the Alex Sarr matchup.
Boris Diaw was in the crowd. Like he was
I'm
there
sure
to
Tony
see the
Parker
game.
was there too. You know, like why not bring them all out? Right. But no, I think he took the Sarr matchup personally. I don't know what Sarr has ever done to him. I'm sure they're actually pretty good friends, but he just decided to take that matchup seriously. Sarr really struggled in this one as a rookie, but I mean, it ignited Wemby into one of the best games of the season. And I also think, you know, the offensive side of the ball has been blown out of proportion a little bit with him. Like, you know, there is the whole old man yelling at Cloud of like, please get to the basket, which fair. There is valid criticism towards that. But when the shot is hitting like this, you can't stop him.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was like, I don't know. I don't even know what it was like to watch. It was, I was an out of body experience. Speaking of out of body, back to back for the Bucks, and Giannis just basically put him on his back, literally.
Yes. Yeah.
59 points in this game. It takes getting to overtime, and they finally they pull it out in overtime. The Bucks win this game by 7. Giannis scores 59 points. And he's +7 for the game. It took every single point that he had, and this is like the big problem for the Bucks is that it feels like it's all Giannis or they have nothing going.
Have you ever heard of the myth of Sisyphus?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you've heard of, right? Carrying that boulder up the hill. That is what Giannis Antetokounmpo is with the Milwaukee Bucks. And it was that tonight. I mean, in the first quarter, he scored 22 of their 24 points. It was just him versus the Detroit Pistons. And it carried on throughout the game. They didn't have anybody else that was able to contribute. Now, admittedly, like guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Brook Lopez, they hit some timely shots. Taurean Prince hit some timely shots that helped them win this game. But Giannis this season has just had to carry them so much. And you wonder how much longer. Like, I mean, of course he can do it all season.
I will say they're missing Damian Lillard and you know, with the concussion issue, and he was finally starting to come around. Ryan Rollins is out for this game, who, I mean, he looked great for them. I mean, they started out the game, I think he had 7 shots in the first quarter against the Raptors in their NBA Cup game. I think another part of it that we can't leave out is just no Chris Middleton. And, you know, we still can't get an update on Chris Middleton. He's not playing. He's not healthy. Doc Rivers updated our own Eric Name a little bit today and was saying that, you know, they expect him, you know, maybe in a few weeks, but they're waiting for him to actually be healthy. So,
and by the way, like this isn't your father's Pistons team. You know what I mean? No. Like this is they are competing. They're a little bit more poised than they are. They
almost
just
pulled this one off too. And gotta say, after winning the game against the Heat in the NBA Cup opening night, they had an opportunity where they had a tie game and a sideline out of bounds with 1 second left, and they ran the exact same play. They got free throws out of it. And, you know, shout out to Ron Holland. It's tough being a rookie in the NBA as it is because those lights are so bright. But he missed. They were bad misses, S. And look, I hope he gets another chance this season with the game on the line to shoot some free throws. Because
can I just rattle off Giannis's averages so far this season? Just to add to the Sisyphus of it all. Okay, 33 points per game, shooting 61% from the field, 12.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, nearly 2 blocks a game. Like that's just absurd, you know, like that is absurd volume and efficiency from Giannis, putting himself on the map for like, I don't know, the second best player in the world. I think Jokic has the title of best player, but maybe it's Giannis's number 2. Anyways, but
just, I don't know. He's going to take everything incredible that he's got. It looks like, and he's just trying to hold on until they get healthy. Stick around after the break, guys. We're going to talk about the Wolves who lost 2 games in 2 days to the Portland Trailblazers, and get into that Knicks and Bulls crazy finish. Before we get to the Wolves and the problems that they were having in Portland, we got to talk a little bit about this LeBron James game. LeBron had another triple-double. This is 3 straight games with a triple-double. And we're getting to the point with LeBron where every single time you see a stat, there's some ridiculous caveat or something else attached to it. He's now at this point, because he's pushing 40, he's going to be 40 next month. There's a lot of, hey, the first time he did this was a long time ago. He's done this many times. He's the oldest to do this. What was the wildest sort of stat or fact that you saw about LeBron's ridiculous triple-double?
First of all, I mean, we're getting used to this stuff. I didn't even blink twice when LeBron did this.
I mean, crazy. I said, let's go for 40. I wanted
why not?
After Giannis and Wemby, I was like, let's go for it.
Why not? The craziest stat I saw was from Kirthika, good friend of mine. She said that LeBron James recorded his first career triple-double, 30-point triple-double on April 9th, 2005. He recorded his 40th career triple-double 19 years later. There are 30 NBA players that weren't alive when he recorded his first one. Yeah. Just insane.
See, now this is where in my head, I want to say, S, do you know where you were when he recorded his first triple-double? But I learned my lesson from the last time, so I'm not going to do that.
I would be able to answer that one.
Right, unfortunately, me too. And I'm pretty sure I can't say that on this podcast. Look, the Wolves, they just dropped back-to-back games to the Portland Trailblazers. We've talked a lot about their issues. I mean, you went in deep, I thought, the other day on DiVincenzo and some of the issues that he's having shooting the ball.
He struggled
another
today,
rough night.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 of 10, 0 of 6 from 3.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards was just way off from 3, 0 for 9. But he still puts up 24 points. It still was like very effective. One of the issues they're having, S, is down the stretch of games, they just look like they have no juice. There's no energy there. Portland, meanwhile, was all over the place. I mean, Donovan Clingan had a great game. We'll talk about him a little bit more later on in the show. But they just didn't seem to have any energy. Anthony Edwards isn't able to summon that defensive intensity that we got used to seeing from him last year. Down at the end of this game, he tried to shut down Shadon Sharp, and it just didn't work. Gobert got just absolutely worked inside by Shadon Sharp. Their defensive drop-off overall is a massive problem.
Huge.
And we've been focused on the offense. The defense is an even bigger problem. So, I mean, I don't know where we go there because they look tired.
I think the fatigue is an interesting part. I mean, obviously, they've played 3 games in 4 nights here. With the loss to the Miami Heat on Sunday without Jimmy Butler too, that's part of this. And so maybe it is fatigue with them right now. The turnover is clearly a part of it. I think the defensive drop off is really interesting though, because it talks to you. It kind of points out the idea of compensation, right?
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards is doing so much for them offensively because he's being asked to do more offensively this year that they don't have enough left in the tank to compete on the defensive side of the ball. And so it's this sort of, I guess, Rorschach test. Like, what do you see with the Timberwolves?
It's true.
And I think one of the questions that I have moving forward is like, what is this team's defensive identity going to be? Because like Randall compensating for his flaws on the defensive end has really created this hole for them on that end. They're still top 10 in defense to start this year, but they were the best defense last season. So that drop off is massive. I don't know what the answer to that equation is right now. It's worth noting that Mike Conley didn't play tonight.
Right.
But it's just, I'm very curious to see like what identity this team comes out of 30 games into the season.
Right now, it's a bad basketball team, actually.
Yeah.
They're just not good. This is not a contender in anyone's eyes at all. So
especially in the West, man. Like you can't. This is not the type of basketball that'll help you win in the West.
We'll have to get John Krasinski in here soon to set us straight or tell us why we're exactly right. And it feels like all year long these two teams are going to be tied together. We're going to compare and contrast, and we got to talk about the Knicks. The Knicks lost what we can only call a heartbreaking game because they fought very hard to come back. This is the second night of a back-to-back for them, and they looked dead for most of the game. Karl-Anthony Towns had his best game as a Knick, at least on the offensive end. He had 46 points. I mean, he was just 6 of 12 from 3. He was doing everything that they wanted him to do.
Carving up Nikola Vucevic. Carving him up. Yeah.
And looked great doing it. Jalen Brunson didn't have a great game until down the stretch, and he hits, 2.5 of the biggest shots you could ask him to hit. It was unfair that game winner it was in the basket and came out.
You see the screenshot of the ball literally being 50% into the hoop and it not going down. It's like the reverse Kawhi shot. If it had been one of those
games that had a sensor, he gets the points. It was that deep into the basket.
Pop a shot, he's getting the bucket. Yeah, absolutely.
That was a rough loss for him, though.
Yeah, it was. And similar to the Timberwolves, we sort of touched on this last night, but they're dealing with their own identity crisis too, right? Like this team does not rebound the ball like they did last year. I think to your point, Jalen Brunson has started off slow And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he does not have the screen setting ability of an Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Those two guys were essential to creating space for him, getting things open. And while Cat needs to get better in the screening department, I think it's really limited the amount of space that Jalen Brunson is working with. Funny enough, because how we talked about it in the preseason was like the amount of space.
They're going to have so much space.
Right.
Yeah.
And it actually has worked out to be the opposite. I think defensively is where their struggles lie, though. And it's funny because that's exactly the same thing that I just said about the Timberwolves. But
right.
You look at the defensive field goal percentage of Karl-Anthony Towns protecting at the rim. It feels
like every game is giving up 90% at the rim.
Yeah. I mean, that it's actually pretty close to 90%. I think it's like 87 or 88%.
It matches
right
the
now.
eye test.
Yeah. And I think, Mikal Bridges has taken a step back defensively too, not navigating over screens. OG Anunoby is just playing whack-a-mole out there to try and solve problems for them defensively.
They need like 3 more Josh Harts is what I always feel like right now.
Although not fouling 3-point shots.
Yeah, definitely not. That was a little bit of a bad move from Josh Hart. Stick around, guys. After the break, we're going to talk about all the rookies that had big games. Donovan Clingan, I mean, that guy was just erasing everything up there in Portland. Before we start talking about some of the impactful rookies from last night, let's talk about a rookie who's not really going to make much of an impact this season, and he's not going to make any impact when his G League team goes on the road.
He's not going to be flying.
He's not going to be flying.
Yeah.
It was reported today that LeBron James Jr., is not going to travel with the South Bay Lakers on road games. Listen, I know a little bit about player development and how to make players better. I've worked in my capacity as a coach in that job in a couple places. This is not like the best idea.
No.
To develop a player. He needs to play in games. And the other thing is, this guy, you want him to have a normal career, normal life, be around these other players. Why are you treating him like a sideshow? Now, unless there's some medical issue, which we don't know about, which hasn't been reported, that we can come up with that says, hey, look, this guy, he obviously had a heart issue last year. Maybe this is a precaution to make sure that he's safe. Fine. Great. I didn't hear that. But from a basketball perspective, I think it's an awful idea.
Yeah, I mean, if it is that, then 100% understood. But I mean, I agree with you, man. Like, first of all,
no sense.
It's such a bad PR message also, where it's like this guy will be getting special treatment on these nights and not traveling with the team. How does that work?
He's on the Phil Jackson post double hip replacement surgery plan, and he's 20. I mean, come on, man. This guy needs to play some basketball. Speaking of playing basketball, there were some rookies that played basketball last night. Actually, I would argue last night might have been, as far as rookie impact goes, the heaviest impact that we felt so far this season on one night from rookies. Between Donovan Clingan, Dalton Knecht, Jared McCain, and Zach Edey, I think all 4 of these guys showed some stuff that was interesting to me. I mean, again, I don't dive too much into draft film, pre-draft. I try to watch these guys once they get into the pros. I know a little bit about them, but I'm learning more and more each game. Number one, Dalton Knecht's got to play more, man. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
He closed for them tonight, man.
That's right.
That's part of it. He was on fire in this game. And I think part of it was just understanding the moment from JJ Redick. Like, he brought them back into this one. He had 19 points, 7 of 8 shooting for them, 5 of 5 from 3. Like, when a guy's on fire like that, keep riding the hot hand. But also,
look at what he opens up for them, though. Like, just being on the floor.
Yeah. He's a great movement shooter. He just opens up the floor for a guy like Anthony Davis. I mean, when you look at Gabe Vincent on the other side, who is typically like 0 for 5, he was 0 for 6 tonight. Isn't hitting his shots, and you have another guy there that is actively looking and seeking out those shots, it doesn't make sense to be
Gabe
playing.
Vincent's a little bit of Gary Neal 2.0, like, you know what I mean, after he left the Spurs. Donovan Clingan dominated Rudy Gobert.
Yeah,
as a rookie, he dominated him. He had 8 blocks in the game, which is a Blazers record. Donovan Clingan, is he he should just be the starter there. Like, they are a much better team if they're trying to win games, right?
Look, this is interesting you say this. The last 2 games the Blazers have won, you know who hasn't played? DeAndre Ayton and Anthony Simons. So the 2 guys have not played, and they have. I'm just Putting it out there.
Not a rookie, but Shadon Sharp had one of the best games of his career, too.
Totally.
I mean, he was excellent. And
career
also,
high 33 points. Really, really
also destroyed Rudy Gobert at the rim. I mean, it was just, that was sad to watch. The Wolves got huge problems, as we just told you guys. Jared McCain, my guy, look, started the game, which, of course, because they're just down a bunch of bodies. I'm going to stand by this, especially after seeing him out there in this game last night. He should be with the starters when Paul George and Embiid are healthy and out there. Get Kyle Lowry, make him the organizer of the second unit coming off the bench, which is better anyway. You need a guy out there who will take shots and who can get downhill. I mean, he's just got legs. Jared McCain, I mean, they gave the Cavs a scare, and it was because Jared McCain was gunning.
34 points. He took 26 shots too. Like, he had the green light all night. And I think one of the interesting things that I saw a couple of Sixers people talk about is it reminded them about rookie Tyrese Maxey, who the Sixers were really injured at that point too. And they were running Maxey as the starting point guard. And he just kind of got the wings, the green light to just let things fly. Kind of reminds me of that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad they're both like small.
Same size.
You know what I mean? You can't play them together. Although maybe you can. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. I don't know. We'll figure that out. And then we got to talk Zach Edey, because even though, you know, the Lakers got the win over the Grizzlies, Zach Edey continues to look pretty good. Defensively, I think he's fine. Like, he's not excellent, but he's not a bad defender. He's not getting into space a whole lot, which is good for him. But I think around the basket, he does a pretty good job. He's a great rebounder, obviously. And the thing that just stands out about him is that even around guys like AD, who is huge, he looks massive. Just big. He grabs rebounds in a sea of bodies. And that in and of itself is so valuable.
I think one of the interesting things the Grizzlies have done is that they brought him off the bench tonight. And so I know they ran with the Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson Jr. front court with Jay Huff and whatnot. It still has a lot of size, but Edey brings you that change up, which is like, I'm going to be a traditional center for this team. I thought he did a great job on Anthony Davis the entire night. Also want to shout out Jalen Wells, who has been good for them. Very, very intriguing rookie that should be on people's radar as well.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. For Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour. Don't forget to send us your emails over at NBA Daily at The Athletic. I mean, our friend George sent an email from the UK, and it spurred a huge burst of three-point making from Victor Wembanyama. Look at the power of this podcast. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for waking up with us.